Welcome back everyone to a video, and today I want to highlight a really good rookie wide receiver that I feel like isn't really getting the treatment he deserves because he's a phenomenal pick, and as you can probably tell from the thumbnail, that is Brian Thomas Jr. And so before we get into it, I just want to say thank you guys for all the support. We did just recently pass 700 subscribers, which is really cool to see. So thanks for all the support there. It's on the road to 1,000 though, so if you'd like to help me reach that goal, hit the subscribe button. It takes just a second, and I do all kinds of NFL content, videos like this, ranking players and teams, and week picks, power rankings we'll have coming soon as well. So that's all on the way. But yeah, thank you guys for all the support there. Into this video, though, I do want to talk about Brian Thomas Jr. and the Jaguars offense, because the Jaguars were a team I was really high on in 2023. They kind of disappointed. Trevor Lawrence got banged up. They just kind of fell flat. This year, though, I feel like they're almost being underrated because I think people, including myself, kind of learned from their lesson maybe last year at projecting like a big year for them. And now this year, they might actually be in a better position to have that big year, but aren't getting the same narrative in the media, if that makes sense. And so, of course, there's only been one game played, but I do want to highlight this. So last week, Brian Thomas Jr. led the team in targets, or at least tied for first with targets. He had four receptions on 4 targets for 47 yards and 1 touchdown, including an 18-yard touchdown reception. Also, I'm going to show the pictures real quick. I'm not sure if you guys understand this throw. I didn't really get it when I watched it real time either, but like that throw that Lawrence made from where he like releases the ball to where it ended up is, for one, a crazy throw to make, and two, a lot of faith in a rookie to be able to get to that spot because it wasn't really that open. It was just thrown perfectly. And, Brian Thomas Jr., saw it. He knew what to do, got it in the spot, and made a great play in the ball. So, again, really impressive play when you kind of break it down with those still shots. But, yeah, so, again, led the team in targets, or at least tied for first. And I want to go back to last year whenever the Jaguars added Calvin Ridley. I think that was a big move at the time because, Ridley was back after a year-long suspension. He was really good the year, he recently played, prior to the suspension. Then you added him to the mix with Christian Kirk, but it just didn't really mesh that well. And Lawrence didn't play his best either. And so you fast forward to this year, Ridley's gone. You're back to Christian Kirk. You add Gabe Davis, and you add Brian Thomas Jr. And I think it's very easy to forget about him and a lot of other rookies because if you go back to the 2024 draft, this was a draft class where, everybody was talking about the whole time. This draft class is loaded at wide receiver. It's a super talented wide receiver class. Well, then you get to where we're at right now, and it's easy to forget about just how good a lot of those prospects really are once the season kind of starts. And I think Brian Thomas Jr. is definitely one of them because he was in a class behind like Malik Nabers and Marvin Harrison Jr., who are two just unbelievable prospects at wide receiver. I mean, Nabers is actually on Brian Thomas Jr.'s team. They were together at LSU, so he may have even overshadowed Thomas Jr. a bit. So maybe that adds into it. But regardless of that, it's very easy to overlook him when you're looking at the very top of the class with like the bigger names. But I think for the Jaguars got him for the player that he is, I think it's a great deal. And I would actually go as far as saying that I think Brian Thomas Jr. It has one of the best situations out of all of the rookie wide receivers. And a few that come to my mind are Brian Thomas Jr. They're in Jacksonville. He has a great quarterback with Trevor Lawrence, good team around him. Then you also think like Xavier Worthy in the Chiefs, great position for him to be in. You could say probably Keon Coleman there in the Bills, and then Marvin Harrison Jr. too. I think it's all kind of up at the top there. But guys like Malik Nabers, very great player, or that doesn't sound right. Great player, very bad situation. And then, Xavier Legette on the Panthers. I think he's going to be pretty good, but he's in a very bad spot. You could say Ladd McConkey as well. Great player. Might not get as much volume, though, as that he's probably capable of handling in year one. So I think for Brian Thomas Jr., he's in a very good spot where he's able to really come in and just thrive. He doesn't have to be forced into a role he's not ready for, but I honestly think he's going to be the wide receiver one by week 10 at this point. And I want to go back and highlight his RAS score from the draft. For those of you that don't know what the RAS score is, it is the relative athletic score, which basically calculates a player's 40-yard dash, height, weight, everything, and combines it into a score from 1 to 10 and just kind of gives them a rating based on like their athletic traits and all that kind of stuff. Now, I want to be clear, I never use this to make or break a prospect. I don't use this to say, oh, he scored great on this, therefore he's going to be great, or vice versa, and oh, he scored terribly, he's going to be awful. I like to reference it. I think it is interesting. I think it does translate sometimes. And I think in cases like this, it's easy to forget just how good of an athlete Brian Thomas Jr. is. I mean, 40-yard dash time, 4.3, great time, 2.5 on the 20-yard split, Factor that in, it doesn't actually have his height on here, I don't think. But he's like 6'3". Like, he's not a short receiver. He's not the biggest in the world, but for his size and his speed, and I mean, he doesn't have his agility testing done, at least the one I'm looking at, but still, 9.84 out of 10. This is a great athlete that probably could have went a lot higher if he wasn't behind other great prospects like Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Nabers. So when I go over to the Jaguars depth chart and I'm really looking at this, and again, we're only a game in, it's kind of hard to tell where all the pieces will fall. But I truly don't think it's that far out of the realm of possibilities for Brian Thomas Jr. to really become the wide receiver one on this team before the year's over. Look, Gabe Davis, very explosive player at times. He's pretty good. He had a good game last week for them. I think Brian Thomas Jr. is the better player. I think Gabe Davis is great, but not very consistent, at least at what we saw in Buffalo. Christian Kirk, I think, had a great 2022 season, but again, his production kind of slowed down ever Calvin Ridley got there, and he's a little inconsistent. Maybe the same thing happens now, or maybe he's just not cut out to be a long-term wide receiver one. Regardless of that, I really think by the end of the year, Brian Thomas Jr. will be up there with Evan Ingram when it comes to targets or even receptions. I mean, Ingram led them in receptions last year, so I can't help but think that Brian Thomas Jr.'s role is only going to really grow on this team. The Jaguars are a good team. They're not afraid to pass the ball. Obviously, they have a good run game with Etienne. Bigsby's getting a bit of a role in offense now this year as well. But I really think the Trevor Lawrence to Brian Thomas Jr. connection is only going to get better as the season goes on. I think this is someone that you can look for on deep shots. I think you can look for him across the middle. I really think he's going to become their most just reliable wide receiver, honestly, on the depth chart. And I honestly think that because his situation is so good, he statistically might be better than a lot of the guys we maybe had above him, in the draft. It'll be interesting to see what Malik Nabers can do this year with basically all the odds stacked against him with a terrible offense with Daniel Jones in there. But again, Thomas Jr., he's in a spot where he can really thrive. I think it is one of the better situations for a lot of the rookie wide receivers this year as far as the opportunity for the role, as far as the quarterback, as far as the coaching, and just all-around offense. I really think he's in one of the best situations. I'd also like to say that the Jaguars do play the Browns this weekend, which have they have one of the best, if not the best defense in the entire NFL. So if I happen to upload this video on, you guys will be seeing this Saturday. So if you guys happen to wait till, for tomorrow to come, the Jaguars play, and Brian Thomas Jr. is terrible, I apologize to all the Jaguars fans out there for maybe jinxing him, but I really think this is someone that's going to be able to produce in those situations where you're playing a really good defense. He'll be the one to step up. It's not really a knock on, Gabe Davis or Christian Kirk or anything. I just think Thomas Jr. has the highest ceiling, and I think it's very easy to forget about that when you have Malik Nabers in this draft class and Marvin Harrison Jr., in this draft class. So, I don't know. All I want to say with this video is watch out for Brian Thomas Jr. It's very easy to overlook him. He has the opportunity to have as big of a role as he wants on this offense. I don't think any wide receiver is locked in at one above him, to be honest. I think it's up for grabs. I think we've seen early now, one game in, we've seen Lawrence is not afraid to target him. In fact, it looks like he actually wants to target him as even a first option at times. That throw I highlighted earlier, he has to trust in him as a rookie. Again, one game in, maybe it's an overreaction, but this was not some bum coming out of the draft. This was a very good prospect that just didn't really get the recognition he probably would have deserved, or at least he would have seen if he was in, the draft a different year and not a loaded wide receiver class like this. So I think he's in a great spot. I'm excited to see what he does the rest of this season. If you guys enjoyed the video, though, be sure to subscribe down below. It is free. It takes just a second. Let me know down below who your favorite team plays tomorrow, and if you think they will win or lose. If you're a Panthers fan, I'm very sorry to hear that. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.